It's January. This is the Black Hills of South Dakota. I'm Dean. I'm here to talk about the Black Hills, the place I've been riding for many, many years, as you can tell by looking at me. I first started riding back in the very early 1990s, so that makes it damn near 30 years that I've been riding these hills. Started out with four-wheeling Jeeps, whatnot, converted to ATVs probably about 15, 16 years ago. Been riding them ever since. I've ridden all over the hills. I've ridden here before the hills were closed, when you could ride anywhere. There was open riding throughout the hills. If you wanted to bushwhack over some untamed trails, you could do that. If you wanted to run cross country, you could do that. In 2010, they introduced rules that essentially mean that you have to stay on trails nowadays. Well, that hasn't really ruined the riding. As a matter of fact, I think in the long term it's made it a lot better. You don't have all these ad hoc trails messing up the countryside. That said, they did close a lot of good old trails that a lot of us who've been riding for many years in the hills miss. But I thought maybe it's time for me to set up some videos here and talk a little bit about riding in the hills. These are impromptu videos. I don't work off a script. I just tell you what I think. You either like that or you don't. If you do, you can like it. If you think it goes rambling and things like that, don't bother telling me. I don't care. All right, so let's talk about it. I said this is January. This is the hills, okay? Typical hills riding. The thing about the hills is you can ride all year long. It's not a bad day today. It's about 35 degrees outside now. Light snow in this area. But if you go to other areas of the hills, there's deep snow. And I'll have some videos as time goes on showing you winter riding. But the thing about riding with ATVs or UTVs now is that you can ride all year. If you're not adverse to cold weather. A lot of the trails are open all year. A lot of them, even if they're snow-packed, you can drive through them or ride through them, and it's challenging. And you can ride pretty much whatever you want. If you want to ride dirt bikes, that's fine. If you want to ride ATVs, that's fine. You want to come out four-wheelers, that's fine. In my own case, I have three types of wheels I use. Four, actually, now that I think about it. On the trails, I use three, and that's a Jeep Wrangler. That's you'll be seeing in later videos. It's an ATV. This is my small ATV here. It's just a little 400cc ATV I've had for many years. It works. I mean, it's probably adequate for the hills. At some point, I'm going to be talking about how big of a machine you need to ride the hills. I also ride a UTV. It happens to be a Wildcat, Arctic Cat Wildcat ATV, and I also have my bigger Polaris, which is kind of a heavier duty trail riding machine. And I also ride motorcycles, but not on trails. When I first came to the hills in 1955, so I've been around. The first time I ever went off trail, I went in a Model T, the one with the three pedals on the floor. Me and a buddy in high school decided we were going to go off-roading that thing, and believe it or not, they're quite good. You could take some mining roads, and it couldn't do what modern vehicles can do, of course, but in the day it was remarkably good, and I'd like to take one out again someday, but that's not going to happen. Anyway, I'm going to start this series of videos with winter riding, and specifically how I do it. And first of all, I think the first rule is, in winter riding, have the right gear. Don't go out without the warmest possible clothes you can have. ATVs, UTVs, motorcycles to some extent all have carrying capacity for heavy gear. And that means good boots, because you never know, you might have to walk out. It means having clothes that are warm enough and layered. And we'll get into layering later, but layering basically means you want to keep your clothes so that if you get a warm day and you start sweating, you want to be able to take them off. And I'll tell you, the worst thing about cold weather is sweat. And you'd probably say, what? What's he talking about? Well, if you go out and it's a nice morning like this morning, it's somewhat overcast, but it's a good video day. You go out and you're riding the trails and it starts to warm up a little bit. You better open up and cool off, because if you start sweating and the inside of your clothes start accumulating moisture, as soon as the late afternoon comes and it cools down, you're going to be cold. And you're going to be cold because the insulation value of your clothes have decreased because of the moisture in them. So the idea here is that unzip your jacket if you have to, and some other things. Now there's technical solutions, and I'll probably touch on this at some point. Heated socks, heated vests, heated hand grips, heated seats. All this stuff is now available, and it does make the riding experience a little more pleasant. But it's not necessary if you dress warm. If you dress right, and that means good gloves, really good boots, layered clothes. Usually that includes some sort of undergarments, long underwear or whatnot, with your outer clothes, and then possibly some sort of windbreaker that will, provide enough layers that you can add them or subtract them as you need when you're out in the trail. Because if you go out all day, you're going to be out there from the early morning when it might be 20 degrees, to mid-afternoon when it might be 45, to early evening when it might be back to 20 again. So you're going to be looking at variations in temperature. And the other thing that affects temperature quite a bit is the amount of sunshine you're getting on the trail. Now, if you're riding a trail like this, okay, and you're in deep woods, you're not going to see a lot of direct sunshine. You will find openings. We call them prairies here, or parks. That's not quite interchangeable, but open areas are either prairies or parks. And if you find an area where there's plenty of sunshine, you might want to stop and have a break there. And maybe I usually pack a thermos of coffee because I like coffee. And maybe a light snack. And that brings me to the second thing you want to carry: food, high energy food. And again, if you're out and you need to walk out of the woods, you want energy foods. You don't want to go weak. So a few candy bars, maybe some snacks. If you're planning on having an all-day outing, maybe take some sandwiches and chips or something. Whatever you like, it doesn't matter. But just have some food with you. Deer. Our dog sees deer. Okay. I think the other major rule, especially in wintertime riding, not maybe so much in other seasons, but in the wintertime, I don't like to ride alone. Now, I've done it. I got to admit I've done it, but I don't like to. I would rather go with a group. And the reason for that is you may have a day like today with very light snow. Almost no snow here. Probably just a dusting of snow. And you go somewhere like the northern hills or the northwest, western hills up in the high plateaus or whatnot, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a valley with 3-foot snowdrifts, and you might be able to get through them, but you might not, and you might get stuck. And it's always nice to have a group so that if one person gets stuck, there's somebody with a winch or another machine or a tow rope or something that can get you out of there. If you're alone, you better have a shovel with, and a lot of people I know carry shovels. And I'm going to get into the gear on this later. This is kind of just an introduction, so we're going to let it go at that. The other thing you want to have is plenty of fuel. I always carry an extra 2 gallons of fuel because basically in the Black Hills, you can get anywhere with 2 gallons of fuel. You can always get to a road, you can always get to somewhere else. So if you actually run out of fuel, 2 gallons is almost always going to be enough to get you out. Now these machines aren't good on gas mileage. You'll find that a lot of these 2-cylinder machines get 10, 12 miles a gallon. That's all they get. They're not very economical. But if you can't find something within 20 miles of where you are in the Black Hills, you're really lost. Other people like certain things. We'll talk about maps or GPS things. We'll talk about, you know, a compass, matches. I mean, there's all kinds of survival gear, and I put together a list of kind of what I think you ought to have. The only other critical thing I would say that you kind of need is a tire repair kit and an air pump. Okay, because you never know. I've seen people run over antlers and poke a big hole in their tire. Even sharp sticks can do it on some of these tires. I could talk about different brands if you'd like. But you never know when you're going to need something. And usually these plug patch kits work pretty good. And I've seen people put, you know, as many as a half dozen or even more plugs in a single hole to plug it up, and they tend to hold, believe it or not. They're not a permanent fix. You need to, if you want to keep the tire, you probably should take it off the frame and put an interior patch in it and all that stuff. But if you're on the trailer to get you home, then that's kind of the important thing. Well, that said, I plan on doing a series of videos here. I will intersperse these videos and these talks with various pictures that and videos that I've taken of other riders over the years, and kind of show you, you know, rather than just talk about something, I'm going to talk about trail riding techniques that are unique to the Black Hills, and there are some. For instance, side hill riding, doing a proper K-turn, and stuff like that you're going to find that if you're riding in Iowa or Wisconsin or Minnesota or someplace like that, you're not going to need those skills as much, okay? And then there's the matter of how you deal with downed trees, which is a prevalent problem here. A lot of the busier trails aren't going to, you know, you're not going to have to deal with downed trees, although we've been on main trails and found recently felled trees. So and then I'm going to talk later on, as we get into this a little further, about specific places to ride, and you know, where you might want to ride, and how you know, how you might plan an outing, and you know, finally, nobody in the Black Hills offers guided rides. Okay, so don't ask. I mean, it's just nobody can do it legally because. Well, you can. The Forest Service has what they call an outfitter program, but the requirements of the outfitter program are so difficult to meet that virtually nobody does it. And I might do a separate video on that, which kind of explains why nobody offers rides in the Black Hills, or you know, conducts tours. Okay. That said, you can sometimes join a club ride. Now, there's a couple clubs. There's the South Dakota ATV Association. It's actually now renamed the South Dakota ATV/UTV Association because UTVs have become so big. There's the local club that I belong to out of Hill City. It's called Let's Ride. And this is a group of about 40 riders who usually go out once or twice a month, and usually the average ride on that group has between 10 and 15 machines, and usually with 2-up machines or UTVs you might have about 20 people on the ride. Other than that, you're kind of on your own, and for that you're going to probably want to get a hold of a Forest Service map. The Forest Service, frankly, does a very terrible job on their maps. They're just awful. What can I say? They don't put any landmarks on them. They're in black and white. They've got an almost indecipherable code system on them. And even if you use a map, you're going to go out and some of the trails won't be numbered. And, you know, I can't tell you how bad it is. You can go online in the Forest Service and download GPS tracks. They don't have GPS tracks, but they have maps you can download. And I don't know if you can overlay your own GPS tracks in them or not. I've never tried it. Hey, I'm old school. Get over it. I mean, when I first started riding, you kind of used dead reckoning. It maybe had a compass. Usually it didn't. You kind of knew where north was in the Black Hills all the time. You knew what time of the day it was, so, and you kind of had a general feeling of where everything was. So, you know, riding in the old days was just kind of, hey, let's go, you know. But that said, I guess that's about it. If you're from out of state, you'll run into the licensing issue, whether you can ride on-road or off-road, if you can use county roads. And again, I'll talk about that in a word, yes. In another word, no. Because you need to get a permit. You can get a one-time permit from county courthouses. It's good for up to, I think, 15 days. But mostly, you know, that's not going to be an issue, frankly. And you need a trail pass. You can order your trail passes online from the Forest Service. Just go to the Black Hills National Forest website. You Google it, you'll find it. And you can order it by mail for an extra $2. They'll send it out. If you don't want to do that, you can buy it locally at a very few places. The Hill City Chamber of Commerce office sells them. So you can go over there and you know, fill in the information there, and you can get one on the spot. You can also get one directly from the Forest Service offices, but they're being a government agency, they operate like bankers. They're limited from about 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, so unless you happen to be around there at that time, you know, you're going to have to make a special trip. Okay, that's enough for this one. I'm going to try to keep these various talks and videos short, maybe about 10 minutes each. So if you have any questions, you know, if you see this and you have some specific questions, you can leave them in the comments section.